If you enjoy this video, subscribe to Scarf and Goggles and check out our other content. Every story has to start somewhere. In the mid-1970s, Thrust 1 represented Richard Noble's first steps towards challenging for the land speed record. Starting in 1974, Noble built the jet car in his garage with the same single-minded determination that would later see him return the record to Britain after 20 years in American hands. In this new interview, Richard Noble talks about what originally inspired him to take aim at the world land speed record and how he set about making his dreams a reality. Can you recount what lit the spark in you to want to pursue record breaking?
Well, we go back to 1952, September in 1952. My dad was in the army. It was after of course, after World War II. And he was now based in Scotland. And he decided to do a sort of a trip. Anyhow, he drove down the north side of Loch Ness and he came around the corner and there was a huge crowd of people. And we kind of stopped there to find out what was going on. And I looked down and I saw John Cobb's jet boat Crusader and I thought, wow, that is fantastic. I mean, it was such a futuristic looking machine, beautifully painted in silver and red and absolutely astonishing machine. And I just thought, that's fantastic. How come a man has got something like this? And my dad has a human minx, you know, what an extraordinary world. And I really, I don't know, something got to me at that stage and I really wanted to study this. And, you know, I was only 6 at the time. And, you know, after that I went home and I don't know, I built cardboard jet engines and read books on rockets and things. Then I discovered there was a land speed record, which is much faster. And I thought, oh, that's much more interesting. And then it sort of stuck. And the fundamental problem is you push hard with a normal commercial career. You push hard at it, but this thing's burning away inside you, you know, and you reach a point where you say, well, I've got to go and do it. At least I can sort of settle that one. And so that's when the moment started.
What sort of date, what sort of year was it that you thought, right, I'm going to do something about this? And how on earth do you go about doing something about it?
My aunt decided that she was going to give me some money, which was very generous of her. And I bought a TR6, which I loved. Lovely car. And then I realized, well, that's not going to take me anywhere. If we're going to do this world land speed record, we better get a jet engine. So I flogged the TR6 and basically that gave me some money. And then I went down to see a splendid character in Portsmouth. He had a square, I suppose, in his shop full of Derwent jet engines. So I went round all the Derwents and found a really good one. Suddenly we had the Derwent engine. So that was the sort of start. And then there was the classic one, which was the chassis. I worked for GKN in those days, and they had a large outfit in Shropshire, which made chassis. And so I went up there, met the marketing director, we talked about all this. We walked around looking at the sort of various chassis on the production line, but they were all sort of Land Rover stuff and it was no good. We came back through the sort of sales office. There, lying in the dust, was exactly what I wanted. So I said to the guy, look, that's it. That's exactly what we want. It's the right, you know, you always travel with a tape measure in this game. And he said, oh, I don't know about that. That's an R&D product, must have cost a fortune. And I said, well, in point of fact, actually, it's 18 inches too long. So the guy immediately brightened up and said, come over here, Fred. So Fred came over and bring the oxyacetylene. And he brought the oxyacetylene. We burnt 18 inches off. And he said, you can have it now, Richard, it's damaged. And it's this wonderful spirit that somehow enables these projects to go.
Who designed Thrust 1, and was it always part of a bigger project? Was it always going to be the baby step?
It was always the baby step. I mean, you know, the name of the game was to get there somehow, but with minimal knowledge and no high-speed driving experience, you've got to kind of start somewhere. So I got the chassis and I got some truck axles and I began building, putting it all together. I had no idea how to do it. You know, you were learning so much. That got us started and we learned so much. That was the important thing.
Thrust 1 is designed fairly empirically, then, it would be fair
Almost
to say.
certainly, yes.
But you still took it to a wind tunnel. You took it to Filton, is that correct?
Yeah, I was worried about it flying. And we went and chatted up the guys at Filton who were doing Concorde. And they said, right, okay, we'll help you, but you've got to make the model. You said you've got 2 weeks. So there's a hell of an effort. The model's actually up there. 2 weeks, and we got it there. And they played around with it. They were quite impressed, actually. They expected a real bit of junk. They came back and said, yeah, you're all right for 200 miles an hour. It's not going to fly. So that was a good start.
Can you tell us how it felt to have a jet engine behind you? You started up and you start rolling in Thrust 1.
The RAF were still operating a thing called a snowblow. A snowblow consists of a large fuel truck with 2 jet engines pointing backwards, but on front of it, okay? And the idea was that this thing drove up and down the runways. And it was so powerful that when both jet engines were running flat out, basically they had real trouble getting the truck to go forwards. So it was a great thing. So it had a sort of little hut on the front and these 2 jet engines, Derwent engines. And there was one guy who was the last exponent on the Derwent engine. So I got to meet him, and we sat down and talked about all this, and he said, fine. He said, bring it down here and I'll have a look at it. So it was great. So I put it on a trailer and took it down and went back a week later, and I said to him, well, what do you think? Well, he said, you haven't done badly. He said, you really haven't. I didn't think you'd get as far as this. But yeah, you've got the starting clocks and you've got all the electrics in and all that works. But you made a mistake. So I said, yeah, I'm sure I did. What was the mistake? You didn't put the drains in, which is absolutely crucial to drain the combustion chambers if you ever flood the engine on trying to start. So fine, he said, and I put the drains in. So the next movement is to start it. Oh, great. So I said, are you going to do that? And he said, no. He said, you're going to do that. And the controls came from an outboard motor. So you had two levers. One was the HP cock and the other was actually the throttle. So we tied it down to a concrete ring in the road somewhere on the airfield. And he said, now you've got to be very careful, because if you get this wrong, it goes into an enormous resonance vibration with the Derwent, and it'll shake all the windows, and the RAF people will get a bit upset over that. So you've got to be very, very gentle. So I had tested the starter system before, but not with any fuel in the engine. And this thing, you press the button, it goes click, 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 it winds up the clock gets going. The clock then switches in the power to the electric motor a little bit to get it all spinning, and then a bit more to spin it right up. And in the meantime, also the thing called the torch igniters light up, and they're going to light the fuel up when the moment came. So there I was sitting there, and I reached the right sort of RPM. I opened the little HP cock, and tick, 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 and all this went on, and then suddenly there was a kind of whoomph as it lit up. And I thought, oh God, what's happening? And is it all right? Yeah, it's fine, it's fine. It wound up gently, and it wound up, and eventually we took it up to max RPM, about 14,000 revs, and it was absolutely fine. So that was good. So suddenly we got a car, which is brilliant.
Okay. So that was tested without you in the car, was it?
No, I was in the car.
You were sitting in it?
Yeah. He wouldn't do it unless I was in it.
Okay. So no second thoughts then. You've wound this engine, you've built this thing,
Yeah.
you've described this as a cathedral on wheels.
Yeah, that's right, yes.
And the next step is to sever the tie down and to
Start running
try
it. Yeah.
So you took your first run at what sort of
This
speed?
is RAF St Athan, and I suspect probably no more than 30 or 40 miles an hour. And it was quite an experience, actually. It was a very gentle piece of machinery until you actually wound the engine right up, and then where it would go. And so we went up and down, and then we did our Tomorrow's World program with Raymond Baxter. And Baxter was just absolutely brilliant. I liked him a lot. And he, in his commentary, which we only discovered a bit later when the thing was aired, said, I think this is the start of a land speed record program. And I thought, good for you. I never actually said that. I wasn't sort of brave enough to say that. But he said it for me, and that was good. It was desperately crude, very, very dangerous. But nevertheless, I was learning a lot. That was the crucial thing.
Let's briefly talk about what happened when it all went wrong one day.
All right, okay. Well, what had happened there was that we progressed the car We'd run it even around Brands Hatch. That was very interesting. It really was, and got a lot of interest there. And then we took it back to RAF St Athan, and we ran it for our show day. And then we really got to get some speed up. We wanted to run it on the M11. The M11 hadn't been opened yet. And I remember we gave a presentation to the civil servants, and there was no reason why we couldn't have run on the M11. We really couldn't. I mean, the tires were okay. Dunlop, who'd done all the tires, said it was going to be okay. And but the civil servants were worried about the joints between the concrete slabs, so that wasn't going to happen. And so eventually, talking with the Ministry of Defence and also their property people, we began to realise the answer actually lay with the RAF, and we went to RAF, oh God, I forgot which one it was now, Fairford. And I did a run with the jet, which was great. And it went straight down the runway, and I don't know how fast we were doing. We were certainly moving, and it was good. I changed the design of the car a bit. It was much lower, so it wasn't quite the cathedral on wheels it had been originally. And on the way back, something happened. I was accelerating really hard, really fast, trying to find out what I got, and it went into a triple airborne roll. This is something I think to do with the gyroscopic couple, because of course it's powered by a centrifugal engine, and you've got this huge compressor and turbines spinning around. Anyhow, it went into a triple airborne roll, and there was a huge smash. And I ended up upside down. But fortunately, because the engine was so big, it actually took all the bangs and not my head. And my wife at the time was absolutely horrified because she was in the fire truck. And the fireman in the fire truck said, "Don't worry," he said, "it's white smoke. It's not black smoke. It's white smoke, so that you were all right." So that was okay. So then, of course, the whole car was completely wrecked. We'd probably taken it as fast as it dared go. And it was clearly dangerous, and we obviously couldn't advance anymore. So the next stage was, on the way home, was to stop off at the scrapyard. And I got 175 quid for it all. Anyhow, sadly, it was all chopped up, and we never actually saw it again.
My thanks to Richard Noble for sharing his memories of Thrust 1. Coming soon, the full story of Thrust 2. How Richard Noble started with a budget of just £175 and turned it into a credible contender for the world land speed record. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss this.
How do you find somebody with 175 quid? Well, it's easy enough. You see, what you do is you write a press release saying we want a 650-mile-an-hour car designer. And I had this letter from John Ackroyd. No, there was no doubt in any of our mind that John was undoubtedly the man to do it.